Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this learning objective, the second learning objective we're going to talk about, it's understanding person-centered and personalized care. So any idea what a person-centered care is? Anything have you ever heard about it, or
Yes.
have you ever read about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
person-centered care is when an individual is being put at the center of his own care, or when
Mm-hmm.
an individual is being allowed to be part of those people that will um, take care of his care plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Richard, any comments?
Yeah, no comments for now, please.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what we'll talk about now is, this doesn't seem to go, just a minute. Yeah, it's a bit slow. So what's person-centered approach? We'll talk about the indicative content here. We'll be talking about what it is and what are the best person-centered approaches and why is it so important? Why are we going into depths of learning about the person and talking about the person themselves? What I can do is, just a minute, if I fix this slide. Can you have, are my slides clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking about, because, yeah, that's okay. So we'll talk about principles and, sorry, this has gone away again. Just a minute. Just a minute, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so before we start, so what is person-centered approach? As I said, it's basically keeping the person at the center. I'll share my slides again. Yeah, I'll share the sound because we'll look at a video later on. So we'll talk about the principles and practices of person-centered approach and how do you keep one individual at the center of your care, whatever you're doing, whatever practice you're doing, it's the person is at the center. What are the tools that we use and what holistic planning do we have to promote health and well-being? We'll talk about the definitions, the important definitions there. What is outcome-based practice and how support plans can be effectively implemented? Personalization of care. So what does it mean? How do we personalize care in the NHS? What is inclusivity? We'll talk about inclusivity and why, and then we'll talk about ethics again. So dignity in care, confidentiality, upholding and promoting service users' rights. So yeah, any questions if you have, please let me know. I'm happy to take them. So, so a bit about person-centered approach. So it is about focusing care on the needs of the particular individual who you're treating or who's your service user. So you're ensuring that the person's preferences and their opinions, their needs, and whatever values they have, because they come from different cultures, they come from different backgrounds, they've been given proper care, respecting and responding to their needs. Then we talk about diversity and inclusion. So any idea what these mean? Anyone? What do I mean by diversity and inclusion?
I can say diversity is where when we have different people with different opinion, different background, and we now put what they have, their opinion together into, we include those things in their care plan so that they can be comfortable, they can they can enjoy the care being provided for them.
Okay. That is, what did you say what is that? What you're defining?
Diversity. That means they have different background, different culture.
Okay.
Yeah, different culture, different background, different understanding, and different language. So we now put every one of them with their own different background. We bring them together to help them in their care plan.
Exactly. So, Richard, any idea what that means? Thank you.
Yeah, as she said, different cultural background, religion, upbringing, social, spiritual background, and incorporating and respecting their rights and incorporating that into their daily activities and according with proper safeguarding their daily needs and which their right is really looked into. I think that is the inclusion part, right?
Yeah.
You have to include them in decision makings, in the day-to-day activities, in their planning, in everything they are set out to do. They have to be in the picture and the know-how.
That's fine. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, because we all have diverse backgrounds, so that has to be respected. And if you're including people in their care process, the care becomes even more special. So there's people, there'll be people who vary in age, they have disabilities, they have different gender reassignments, they have different marital statuses, and so on. So these should not be there whilst you're treating patients or service users. And these are protected characteristics under the Equality Act 2010. And it is unlawful to treat someone less favorably because of any of these factors. So this means that you have to include. So I'll start sharing a video with you on person-centeredness. Just give me a minute. Okay. Can you see my screen again?
No.
Not really. Can't see the screen.
We can see it now.
Yeah, it's visible now.
It's a video that I'm showing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk about person-centered care. Kindness and respect mean different things to different people. That's why it matters to be person-centered. Being person-centered means thinking about what makes each person unique and doing everything you can to put their needs first. It's all about working with instead of doing to. Working with a person will help you tailor their care and motivate them to take part in it. The Code also highlights your professional responsibility to make sure people's rights and best interests are at the centre of your decision-making, especially when people are at their most vulnerable. How do we do this in practice? We can't be person-centred if we don't know what's important to each person. So it's about making time for people. Time to see the whole person, not just the condition or illness. And time to think about their wider needs, social, psychological or spiritual, as well as their health and well-being. Good communication is important too, because some people find it easier to talk than others. One person will speak clearly and confidently, while another might need your support. If they don't speak your language or have an impairment, you'll need all your excellent communication skills to help them to share what's important. Then you can plan care with them in a person-centred way. What if it's busy and there's no time? We know it can be easy to see the long list of tasks before you see the person. But even moments of reassurance, a quick smile or a kind word, can make a difference to someone's well-being. If you're really stretched, let the person know why you can't give them more time right now, and that you or someone else will make up for it later. And if you're handing care over to someone else at the end of a busy shift, let them know when you've not had time to properly engage with the person. In difficult, busy circumstances, there's a higher risk you won't get something right for a person. Be open and honest when you've made the wrong assumptions about a person's needs. Don't delay in saying sorry. Reflecting on each person and learning what works for them will help build their trust and confidence in you. That's why being person-centred leads to even better care. Next, we'll talk about end-of-life care.
Okay, that's about it. Okay. Yeah, I'll share my screen again with you. Okay, so how was that? Was this the
It was
same thing
quite,
that, yeah,
it was quite informative
okay,
and enlightening. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Any other comments?
It's straightforward to what you have been telling us about
Yeah.
putting somebody in his the person to be on the center of his care.
Exactly. So, yeah, so what we will do today is talk about what person-centered care is, and it's basically it's a fundamental approach in healthcare and social care, and it prioritizes the individual's needs, preferences, and values. So we'll talk about a bit about the analysis. So there are certain principles of person-centered care that you have to adhere to. So the first one is individuality and autonomy. As the name suggests, obviously, you would recognize each individual as a unique person. They have their own preferences, their own values, because they come from diverse backgrounds and their own experiences. This will respect their autonomy and empower them to make the choices that they want to make for their care and support. Then you have the holistic approach, where person-centered care would take into account the whole person, including their physical, emotional, social, and spiritual needs. So all those needs are taken care of. And you would acknowledge here that health and well-being are influenced by several other factors that are not within the medical conditions that they have at that time. So there's a lot more that you need to do just apart from the medical ailments that they come with. And then partnership and collaboration. So person-centered approach will be having a collaboration with the individual themselves, with their family members, because they're there to support what you are supporting, and healthcare or social care professionals. This would involve decision-making, not only for yourself easy, but for them also. And it would actively involve the individual in planning and managing their care. Respect and dignity in every case. So that has to be there. So whenever you have a person-centered care approach, it would promote a culture of respect, dignity, and empathy for each other and for the person that you're treating. And you'll be flexible and adaptable when you're treating that person. So you're not rigid in your treatment and your care for that person. So what do you do in it when you're practicing person-centered care? So there's certain components that you have to adhere to. So it's assessment and planning. So it begins with this person-centered care. It would begin with a comprehensive assessment. So what are the individual's needs? What are their preferences and goals? So if you don't want to go for person-centered approach, it becomes very easy. It's that you're doing whatever you have to do. You have to follow protocol. But when you're doing this added thing, you're giving added care, you're creating a better environment for yourself and for that person. So this assessment would inform the development of a care plan, which will be tailored to the individual's unique circumstances. Then you have communication and information sharing. So whatever communication there is, you would share it with the individual and with the family, whatever they need to know, so that they are a part in the decision-making process. And then empowerment and support. So obviously you're empowering the person and then you're supporting them to make a decision for themselves. There will be continuity of care. So whatever care you're giving, that will be continuous. And then you would have definitely an evaluation and feedback from the individual and their family members, so that this would be constructive feedback so that you know where you need to improve further. The certain challenges and considerations. So for person-centered care, you would need a lot of resources. You would need time. You would need more staff. So as I said, it's easier doing it the other way. But if you want to go one way further, one step further, it would always be best if you have the resources, obviously. And then there's cultural sensitivity there. So it includes cultural beliefs, backgrounds, values. So that has to be taken care of. And then you have to empower staff. So all staff are not trained to support people based on being person-centered. So this has to be there in the training package. So in conclusion, person-centered care would be grounded in principles. These would be individuality, autonomy, and collaboration. So you would focus on meeting the unique needs and preferences of each person who's receiving care from you. When you're analyzing these principles and exploring their application in practice, your care provision can foster a culture that of person-centered care, and this will promote dignity, empowerment, and holistic well-being for all individuals. The next part that we'll talk about is analyzing the principles and practice of person-centered approach. So when we are analyzing, we would talk about, again, the same things. So if you're introducing some intervention or you're introducing some treatment, you would tailor it according to their needs. So you would have to make certain changes according to whatever their needs and requirements are. They need to be empowered and they need to know what choices they have. So an informed decision should be there. So they're informed completely about what their care is about and what is included in it, so that they make their decision knowing that what they have in hand. And then there is holistic assessment, where personalized care would begin with a holistic assessment of the individual's physical, emotional, social, and environmental needs. So this will be comprehensive assessment, which will inform the development of a personalized care plan that would address all aspects of the individual's well-being. You would have flexible delivery models. So as I said, you would not go for rigid things, rigid decisions. Your decisions can be changed. They can be molded depending upon what are the preferences of that individual, what are their needs and requirements. This may involve offering services in different settings. They might want a different time. They're not able to wake up early, or using alternative methods of delivery to accommodate the individual needs. You would want to continuously monitor and review whatever you're doing, because you're doing something that's not the norm. So you would want to continuously monitor and review what loopholes there are. So we have individualized care planning. So this is personalized care that begins with a collaborative process of care planning. This would involve the individual, their family members, and care providers. This will ensure that the care plan reflects the individual's unique needs, preferences, and goals. There'll be shared decision-making, as I said. You will make decisions that are shared by both of the parties. So you will have certain decisions. They'll have certain decisions also. You can discuss the options and then come to a final decision about their care. And then there's coordinated care delivery. So everything that is happening would be coordinated. So the ultimate goal is the well-being of the individuals. There's certain personalized support services where the personalized care may involve offering a range of support services, which will be tailored to the individual's specific needs. So this would include access to specialized therapies, equipment, aids, different, like for instance, they can't hear well, they have certain other disabilities. So that will be taken care of. Social support and practical assistance with activities of daily living. And then outcome monitoring and evaluation. As I said, you'll be evaluating yourself constantly and monitoring yourself. So there are certain challenges here. The first challenge is resource allocation. So how would you allocate resources? So we all know that we do not have enough resources within the NHS. And then if you're going for personalized care, it becomes harder because obviously you would want more staff, more time to work on them. Then there's data privacy and security. So that has to be there. You have the GDPR, we talked about it yesterday. So whatever information is shared, that has to be taken care of, that has to be secure. And then cultural sensitivity, we've talked about this, that you have to be sure that whatever culture they belong to, that has to be considered whilst they're being given care. So we've talked about personalized care. It builds on the principles of person-centered care by tailoring interventions and supporting the to meet the specific needs, preferences, circumstances of each individual. Any questions so far? We're coming to the last bit.
Yeah, I just want to.
From my side.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can I talk? Okay. I want to ask: is there really a difference between person-centered care and personalized care?
Do you think there would be a difference?
I think there's no difference. Or is there any difference?
Richard, do you have the same question or do you have a comment?
I think, let me just comment on it. I think personalized care and centered care are the same thing. It's just use of English there. Right? Yes, yeah. So it still boils down to the same objectives.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, Richard is right. So it's one and the same thing, actually. So it's just phrased differently. That's the only difference. Yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for your question. So now we'll talk about evaluating ways where you'll be able to promote and maintain a culture where you keep person-centered approach in the heart of whatever you're doing. So there's certain leadership and organizational values where you have evaluation. So when you have strong leadership, it's committed to personalized person-centered care, and it's crucial. So leaders would embody and promote values such as empathy, respect, and collaboration. Then you have action. So establish clear organizational values and mission statements that prioritize person-centered care. Leaders should lead by example and actively promote these values throughout the organization. Staff training, as I said, staff would need to be trained on this and developed on this. So if they're well trained and competent enough, it becomes easier to deliver person-centered care. Ongoing training would ensure that staff understands the principles and practices of person-centered care. And then action would be providing comprehensive training programs that would focus on communication skills, empathy, cultural competency, person-centered approaches. So you would encourage, staff to pursue continuous professional development, CPD, in all these areas. How do you involve service users and families? So again, you would evaluate here, you would involve service users and their families in whatever decisions you're making. So this would empower them and ensure that their plans are there based on their needs and preferences. And how, what action would you take? So it's established mechanisms for involving service users and families in care planning, policy development, and service evaluation. So whatever feedback you get, you would tend to work on them. And then there's CQI, continuous quality improvement. That is an integral part of every program. So how would you evaluate? You would have regular evaluation and feedback mechanisms so that your quality improvement is a continuous cycle. And then there's action where you'll implement quality improvement processes that will involve regular audits, reviews, feedback loops, and use of data and feedback to identify gaps in care and implement corrective actions. So there should be team collaboration and communication. So as we spoke about communication last on Saturday, if it's effective, the team works effectively. Otherwise, there's always going to be misunderstandings and not very clear objectives. And then you foster a culture of collaboration and open communication. This is amongst multidisciplinary teams, and you encourage regular team meetings, case conferences, and shared decision-making processes. You empower staff and recognize their achievements. This is very important so that whatever improvement they're making, that is recognized, and then they take it from there on. And they're an example for the others also. Accountability and feedback mechanism is next. So accountability would ensure that the staff are held responsible for adhering to person-centered principles and practices. If you're involving them in your practice, and then what will be the action? So this will be to establish clear accountability structures and performance indicators related to person-centered care. So you'll take regular feedback to the staff, provide them with regular feedback on their performance and their adherence to person-centered principles. You would create a positive organizational culture. So that, how would you do that? How would you evaluate that? A positive organizational culture would value and prioritize person-centered care that fosters employee engagement and satisfaction. And you would cultivate a culture of trust, transparency, and psychological safety, where the staff feels supported and they enjoy their work. So in conclusion, promoting and maintaining a culture where it's person-centered, it requires a holistic approach, and it's multidisciplinary, and it has several facets that it has to work on, which we've talked about already. By evaluating and implementing these strategies, organizations can create an environment where there's person-centered care, and it's not just a principle, but it's a way of life. So that's about it. Any questions? These are your references.
No.
I think it's pretty simple. Yeah, very straightforward.
Very straightforward and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions about the course otherwise? Any comments? I'll stop sharing. And
No.
I'll stop.
But what I want to ask you, do we
It's-
have recording for all of this after our lectures? Do we have maybe that we can go through again?